Small business war stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. Hey, lovers of small business and good stories in general. Welcome to episode 69 of Small Business War Stories. And today I stopped in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I sat down with Spencer Hirst of Western Range Clothing Company. He has a really cool story. He started a Western-themed formal wear company, so he has bow ties and ties and things like that have buffalo prints, elk prints, a lot of really, really cool designs. And I love the tie that he gave me with the bow tie with buffalo on it. I still wear it all the time. Well, not all the time. When I wear bow ties, which is pretty much weddings and things like that. But it was a great episode. He took a risk on doing this, and we talk about what it's like to have a business in Jackson Hole, which is a place that I'd never been to before. This episode is a part of the Soul of America tour, where I was going around the country with Muddy Waggers. I went all the way from Austin to Bozeman, Montana. And this episode as such is brought to you by FreshBooks. And FreshBooks is our sponsor. They are a great company that helps small businesses keep track of their finances. So things like invoicing, online payments, project deposits, and they allow you to get insights into your operation so you can take care of the things that you want to do and not have to worry about, are the numbers right? The numbers will be right because you're going to be using FreshBooks. And they calculated that the amount of time that it saves you is about 192 hours per year. That's about 2 working days per month. So think about all the productivity that you could get by working those 2 days instead of having to worry about your bookkeeping. Check out FreshBooks, and if you go to freshbooks.com/war stories, enter Small Business War Stories in the How Did You Hear About Us section. It helps FreshBooks, it'll help you, and it helps us because that's how we keep the lights on for the podcast. The podcast is also brought to you by Proven, and Proven is the company I started, Proven.com. And it is a small business hiring tool that helps you organize all of your hiring as a small business. And it works really well. We have thousands of customers. Go check it out at proven.com. But maybe more importantly, we have been publishing a lot of really good small business resources at blog.proven.com. That's where this podcast gets published, and that's where a lot of other resources about how to hire, what software to use, all kinds of different important information for small businesses gets published there. So check it out at blog.proven.com. Well, I want to make sure we get into today's episode with Spencer Hirst of Western Range Clothing Company in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And we are live here in beautiful Jackson, Wyoming. And this morning, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Spencer Hirst, co-founder of Western Range Clothing Company. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Pablo.
It's great to be here in beautiful Jackson. A lot of colorful characters in this town that I've been meeting. We were just chatting about and interviewing lots of interesting people. And it's great to learn a little bit more about what you do.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate you having me on here. It's always fun chatting business with other like-minded folks that are excited about, middle America here.
I'm excited to, learn more about how, small businesses bring back the sense of community and life in the center of the country. So I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk a little bit more about maybe just really quickly describe. So you guys do what's called Western clothing, but you guys have a little bit different of a take on it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we're trying to take a little bit approach to straight up formal or Western attire. Growing up in Connecticut, we tend to wear ties and collared shirts a lot more than we do out here.
Yeah.
Went to boarding school out there, so it was always a tie or bow tie and.
Sure.
Blazers and everything. And I got out here, and the only time that I wore a tie for the first year was at an Oscars party, and it was kind of like a last minute throw together, you get all dressed up, and everyone's having a good time, a little shindig.
Sure.
But so it was kind of a joke and all. But then over the years, it started resonating with me the fact that we really don't have a market that is hitting mainstream or formal, semi-formal attire within the Rocky Mountain region. We have a very vibrant and amazing performance attire sector.
Yep.
And, you get everything from...
You mean like ski clothes?
Exactly.
And hunting clothes,
yeah. Some local ones with Caldwell and Stio, and then, you've got the Attire and Patagonia, more the mainstream, larger ones. And those have resonated very well, and they've done a great job. But then we also have Western attire, like, bolo ties and leather and fur.
Yep.
But we don't really have anything in the middle that is hitting 90% of America.
Cool.
Whether you're from New York, Chicago, California. God bless you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. I thought you had another one there.
No.
Mine was coming 3. So, so I saw this niche in the market, and I was like, well, I mean, what about... And then I started kind of thinking a little bit more, well, what would that look like if we started it, and how would we do it? And for the main part, it was the wedding industry kind of really sparked my interest in a sense of, worked for a lot of restaurants and catering companies, and we're always doing events. And everything from black tie to weddings, and everyone's wearing ties.
Yeah.
And they're not wearing them made out of here, but why can't that be?
Got it. So can you give examples of some of the items, like maybe describe some of them for our audience?
Yeah, so we started, our first line, well, I guess the whole idea around it was to create a location-based brand geared around the idea of mountain formal attire. And so we wanted to start that business model going after kind of, a token formal piece. And so at the time where I was, the most approachable product to put out as our launching point was ties and bow ties.
Okay.
It's a kind of an article that everybody can wear.
Yeah, I love bow ties. I wear exclusively bow ties when I go to weddings and stuff like that.
It's great. I mean, you could dance your face off, and you don't have, or like you're not going to get it in your soup or your salad or anything. So it's nice. But it was a very approachable product that we could put out for their first line, and it could also set the bar at that's kind of what the company is about. We're going to start with ties, bow ties, and we're going to have formal attire.
And what set them apart? What were the designs on
So we really tried to take a Western motif to it. And so our logo is a double L antler, but it's kind of a stylized one, more rounded than jagged points. And so it's a little bit more inviting, in my opinion. It kind of makes it fun and playful and enjoyable. And so we started with the elk antler pattern, and then we did different motifs, fly fishing flies and buffalo. And then we just have the bucking bronco. Since we're an in-state company, we get to use the Wyoming, University of Wyoming logo.
Is that right? Is that a rule?
Well, no, you don't have to. We pay less in order to use it because they're trying to support businesses in Wyoming.
Got it. So that's why Jackson Hole uses it, and that's why...
I'm not sure. We have to kind of figure out the logistics around the mountain resort.
Okay.
And what I'm not sure if it's pointed the other way, face the other way, or
okay. Very subtle.
Yeah, they're all, it's tough. But we really wanted to give a shout out to the state. And so, we've even sent a couple to the governor, and he was wearing them at a news conference about a week later after my business partner was like, hey, you see that tie on the front of the paper there?
Yeah.
Governor Mead's wearing? It was like,
it was a bucking bronco.
It was a buffalo
tie.
one.
Buffalo.
So
Okay.
It was one of our buffalo ones. So it looks a lot like the...
Yeah. I might have to get one of those before I leave here.
I love it. So we really wanted to establish that precedent of, formal attire, but make it fun and playful and people can relate to it. And we're not going to take ourselves too seriously. And so then we kind of dove into the shirt game. And again, we wanted to take more mainstream, colorful floral or pastel colors, especially for the summer. Mm-hmm. And so did a line of pearl snaps and button downs. A lot of our button downs are more mainstream, white pinpoint, blue pinpoint, and then a couple different patterns. But then we took it took me about a year to design these, the pearl snap ones.
Okay.
But if you kind of line it up, it's definitely something you would find in I want to say like J. Crew or Brooks Brothers, like that type of pattern, but then we stylize it to a sense it has a touch of Western. So I always like to say we're a classic clothing company garnished with a little bit of Western.
Got it. Okay.
Really makes the place come alive. And
Very cool. And you guys sell, we were talking a little bit right before the show, you guys sell both through stockists here in town as well as directly, right?
Yeah, we have some wonderful wholesale partners here in town that we've have been lucky enough to work with and learn the business. I mean,
how do you select the stores you work with?
Oh, we just kind of, some people reach out to us, we reach out to some people. It's a small town, so you figure it out pretty quickly.
Cool.
Yeah, and we love it. And so,
what percentage of your business is through retailers versus direct?
It's about, right now it's about 50-50.
Okay.
Which is nice. So you get a nice push from the in crowd, and as well as kind of getting some national exposure and recognition through our direct channel online.
Yeah. So, how do you find customers for your direct channel? So I can see how there's a lot of traffic on the square here. I presume some of the stores are right here in the center of town. So that I get the foot traffic part, but then how do you let your brand be known to people nationwide?
Yeah, I mean, that's a struggle that I think every small business that has an e-commerce platform has to deal with. And where do you target your market? And I think that one of the main markets that we do try to tackle as we are growing, and we have kind of positioned ourselves in formal, and then now as we move more into lifestyle apparel, we've been hitting a lot of the wedding areas. Okay. And so we're actually going to be featured in Martha Stewart Wedding Magazine coming up in this winter. Or
that should help.
Not featured, but part of it. So, which would be awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, we're excited about that for sure. But you find, I was like to think about, you start local and then you slowly build your radius. And so we start local and then we go regional, and then we'll try to go national. But as Jackson it's a beautiful place that brings in people from all over, not just the country, but all over the world. And so we have been able to kind of establish a couple of relationships with people throughout the U.S. And you get in front of 200, 300 people at a wedding, and all the groomsmen are wearing our ties or bow ties, and that kind of spreads a little bit more and more and more. So
cool.
It's we can dive into a little bit of the e-commerce portion of it in a sense of where do you throw your money at?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So how do you think about that?
It's strategic, and when you don't have a ton of money to play with, you really have to get on the ground game. And so writing letters to editors, it doesn't matter if it's going to be a national brand like Men's Magazine, Men's Health, Men's Journal, or something local. You just got to get in front of people, and so that takes no money, or just the cost of a piece of paper and a stamp.
Like trying to bring attention to like maybe people who are editorial managers for content for these lifestyle magazines, right?
Yeah, trying to get in front of influencers in any way possible.
Okay.
And I know that the social media influencer game is very strong right now. But you could also spend $10,000 on someone that put us up and says, buy this brand, but people can see the authenticity to it. And if they're not into it, then your brand suffers and you're out 10 grand. So it's kind of a dicey game. And so, you play the ground game and the guerrilla marketing and just kind of hit the pavement and try to get in front of people and talk to them. But then you also do have to put a little bit of money into, your SEO stuff is incredibly important. The more you can pin down who your customer is and what your target market is, then the more efficient you will become in your marketing. And so
what are some examples of terms that you target when you do SEO that you're trying to rank highly for?
Mountain wedding, mountain attire, we even, Western wedding, barn wedding, any of those into the wedding game. And then we target a lot of the hunting, a lot of fly fishing, country club style in the Rocky Mountain region.
Cool.
So
that's awesome. Now, if I'm correct, you didn't have a ton of experience in the clothing industry before you started this, right?
No, none.
Okay.
At all.
So let's talk about that. How did you go from having no experience to doing this, and what were some of the obstacles you had to overcome?
Yeah. So before we started this podcast, Pablo and I were chatting about how we both graduated with political science majors.
Yeah.
And I like to say I went into college undecided and I left undecided. I was too young in a sense. I just didn't know where my life was going to take me at that point, and I didn't have the knowledge or the foresight to see where I was going. And I'm so happy I didn't. In a sense of trying to pick a path and stay on it, because I've detoured a lot, and that's probably where has brought me to my point. But yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into, and so it's been a giant learning curve, a steep one, and you kind of, I like to say, it's a adult scavenger hunt. And so as I entered this, where do you make a tie? How do you make a tie? So you need silk, but who can do that? So basically, I hopped online. I joined a site called Makers Row, and it connects businesses and
what's it called again?
Makers Row.
Makersrow.com.
Yeah, makersrow.com.
Okay.
And it was a startup. Like, I want to say they're about 5 years old now.
And how long ago did you start this?
I started working on it 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, we launched in about 12 days. We'll be at 2 years.
Cool.
From the day we launched.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're
Cool.
excited.
So you go to Makers Row and then
Go to Makers Row and started getting a whole bunch of names, and it seemed like it was fairly concentrated in the New York area. So reached out to a bunch of people and scheduled a ton of interviews, bought a plane ticket, got over there. And then as you start talking with these cut and sew operations, well then they know where the silk is coming from, so they point you in that direction. One person always leads you to another.
Okay.
And you just establish these relationships, and they can tell if you're authentic or not, and you can tell if they're going to be able to be the folks you want to work with as well.
Cool.
So yeah, we just kind of, every product that we make, sometimes we have been lucky enough to know someone that has a connection or can point us in the right direction, or we just kind of hit the pavement and get going ourselves. We've also we've gone to some conferences, apparel conferences, and so those have been extremely helpful in sourcing. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's
cool.
It's
Were you already in Jackson when you started this?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
So I moved out here.
What brought you here?
Well, I moved out here in 2009. I was in college, and so I graduated in 2009. During college, I was working for Fidelity. Their headquarters, they moved it from Boston to Smithfield, Rhode Island, which is right next to Providence College, where I went. And, I thought I wanted to be a finance major and go into the finance world. And then October 2008 hit, everything crashed. They laid all of us off a couple months later. And it was probably the best thing that happened, because at that point, no one was hiring. So I was like, well, why don't I head out to Jackson? My brother was dating a girl at the time. I've got two older brothers. The oldest one was. And then the second one had a friend who went to college with him, and they were very close. And so she was working at ski school here in Jackson Hole Mountain Resort. And so I got a job doing that. And then my brother's friend, or my brother's girlfriend at the time, ends up, her brother is now my business partner here.
Oh,
so we've...
Interesting.
Yeah. So they broke it up, and, long since, and she's got 3 kids, and she's amazing, and we still talk all the time. And
yeah.
My brother's doing great. And so, but we, that connection still stayed alive, and
cool.
Ben and I have become like brothers. It's awesome.
Did he have any background in the apparel industry?
No. He was a poli-sci major as well, and then he went into the Army. He was an Army Ranger, came out, and was down in Houston working in oil fields for a while.
Yeah. What are some hard-earned lessons that you had along the way, basically being brand new to the apparel game?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of hard lessons.
Yeah.
Finding the right people and finding out your target market, and how do we influence them, get them to actually make a purchase, not just have them go to the site, but how do we get that conversion going on? So there's been some steep learning curves.
Yeah.
We've had everything from manufacturer defaults to when you're a small guy, it gets kind of tough because the larger companies want to work with the larger. Everyone has minimums, so they want to work with larger orders. So you got to get pushed to the back, and they'll do it when they have time for you, but that doesn't help your time schedule or your timeline. And so you kind of got to be on top of it and just plan really early. But over time, you weed out the ones that can't do the job for you, and you keep the ones that see the growth and the potential, and hopefully you can continue to cultivate those relationships. So
cool. Has there been a time when things went really sideways, like really wrong, and how'd you deal with it?
Yeah, that happens. I mean,
what happened? Tell me.
So I guess the biggest problem we had was this. We ordered our first line of shirts from a company down in Texas because our whole goal was to try to make things in the U.S. With Ben being an Army Ranger, and we've got a lot of pride here for the U.S. And so we tried to, in our opinion, do it the right way. And so we found this company down in Texas that was going to do our first line of shirts, and we threw a lot at it, time, money, and effort. I was down there twice, and it was supposed to arrive before Thanksgiving. Didn't get here until the whole order didn't get here till after New Year's, and we missed that entire season.
That cost you a lot of money. Right?
It did, and then there was also some quality issues with them, and it just didn't help a small business, and so it threw us for a loop for sure. But
how'd you guys deal with that? Like, what did you do?
Well,
change suppliers. One.
Right. Well, yeah. Change suppliers. Try to figure out what is the best remedy to the situation at the time. There are some things that you can't change, and so when you find yourself in that situation, you just got to say, okay, well, there's no reason to get upset about it at this point. How do we turn around and make this into a how do we turn it into a positive, and how do we still try to capture some of those sales and not continually lose everything? So yeah, we tried to get some stuff up here pretty quick, and get it out to our customers, but then we said, okay, well, we do have some products that we really want to push hard, and we know we have, and that are up to our quality, and we're excited. So cool. We just kind of really pushed the neckwear more and got our scarves out there, and so yeah, we're. So
the main things you do now are ties, you have scarves, you have shirts. Anything else?
Yeah, so for the men's lines, we got ties, bow ties, pocket squares, shirts in 2 different styles. And then for women's, we've got scarves, some accessory items. We have shirts in 2 different styles for women as well, Pearl Snap and Oxford. And then we just have some, hats and other fun items. Cool. Shirts and brand awareness, identity things that.
Got it. Like the hat you're wearing right now.
Yeah. This is a sample. We made some. It's a camouflage, a digital camouflage. Since it's hunting season.
Cool.
So those are shipping out this week. So hopefully they'll be hitting stores in a week and a half or so.
Love it. Cool. What would you say is the number one lesson? So for anybody who's considering, it's tough to sit out on your own, start a company. What would you say is the number one piece of advice and the number one lesson that you have for them?
Keep remembering why you're doing it. You made the choice to do it. You're working for yourself, and you got to stay motivated. But more importantly, you're going to fall down every once in a while, and you're going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or even the opposite way. But for the most part, just stay driven. And take the time to remember why you're doing, and continually ask yourself, is this still worth doing? Is this still exciting? Is it still passionate for me? And, not every day is going to be perfect. There's going to be days when you have to deal with bills and calling the IRS and figuring out your taxes. Yeah. But there are times when you see a smile on someone's face, how happy they are that they look good and they feel good in the clothes that you made. And it makes it all worth it. So I would say continually ask yourself and question, am I on the right path? Is this what I want to do? And if it is, then just stay focused.
That's awesome. What's it like to do business here in Jackson? So what is your relationship to other people in the community, to the government here, and both the city and the state? What's that experience like?
It's an amazing place to start a business. We have a vibrant community in terms of not just entrepreneurial help and advice and guidance, but we also have a unbelievable community that shows up for each other. They'll be there to help you every step of the way. And, that's the beauty of a small town. We really enjoy working here, and we enjoy being in a place where we can truly see that we're making a difference, and that hopefully our success, as we go on, we want to be able to put more money back into the community. But I guess at that point, you need to make money in order to give it away. So we're still developing all of our foundation stuff, but it is a huge portion of what we want to do in order to give back to this community as much as they've given to us. I mean, and then you also have, as part of our community, we're largely we're not just comprised of the folks that live here year round. We're a giant place that has second homes for people that truly wish they could be here all year round. And so those folks also, I mean, they're unbelievably supportive, and they're proud of Jackson. They're proud of that they have a place here, or they come here to visit. They don't even have to have a place here. They come here skiing every year. It's still a very large portion of their life, and so they're part of our community. And so we love having them. And a lot of these folks, over the years, we've gotten to know some amazing humans. And working at ski school, I've gotten to develop some relationships with folks all across the country that we've been lucky enough to pull into our team that supported us. And, look, we were on Nantucket 2 weeks ago doing a trunk show. Some folks that I've skied with for years. He was like, hey, use our house. Here's our car. We'd love to see that your dream is coming alive. Good luck. We won't be there, but, use anything you need.
Cool.
And then you got other people that just, they support it, and they'll buy, and they'll show all their friends, and it's a special,
cool.
Special place.
What about the government? Do they help you along the way? And
yeah, I mean, the Chamber of Commerce is huge here. They do a wonderful job. They really stay updated on everything, and they keep you posted on everything from traffic situations to, what's the market looking like? What was the last quarter looking like? What's the index coming for the next week? Throughout the summer, as a huge portion of our money comes through tourism. I mean, that's the number one industry here in Jackson. So, and we rely on it heavily. That we're looking at those metrics every single time. And so, and then on top of it, yeah, you like to see that the government does, for the most part, support business. I think right now we're having a little bit of a couple challenges with some folks within the town itself not being 100% pro-business. However, those change over time. So
okay.
we're working through those. But as a community that thrives and really survives on tourism and business, I mean, you gotta be pro.
Right?
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, we can't. There was a recent situation of a snowmobile event that's happening in town that they shot down. 2 members of the board just didn't like it, even though it was bringing in a couple $1 million in revenue during a time that has historically been dead.
Why did they reject it?
Mainly just because of the stigma, I believe, that comes around the idea of snowmobiling. We have an event later in the season, the World Championship hill climb, and it's not the message that they want to send to the community in terms of, it's like a kind of a Harley rally going through your town, but these are the folks that fill up every room in our town. They have donated over $1 million to the hospital. They have done more for this community than a lot of other people. So they're good for business, and they're keeping us on the map. And so you can't just say, oh, we're an elitist community, we're going to only cater to certain individuals. with certain lifestyles. Well, turns out a lot of people here snowmobile, and hunt and do all these things, and so you can't alienate them.
Is there any social tension here? Because there's 97%, or depending on who I talk to, 98% of the land is not available for sale. So only 2 to 3% of the land is actually you can live in.
Right.
So then you have a service-driven town where probably most people who work in service industry are unable to afford living here. Or, well, some of them can. It depends on the situation. But a lot of people come from Idaho and other places. What's that like? I mean, I guess I can sense a little bit of a tinge of that in what you're talking about the snowmobiling too.
Yeah, well, it's a problem that we're struggling right now with in terms of housing. You see folks in a service-driven economy working jobs that can't afford the minimum house price of $500,000 to $600,000.
Right.
There's no such thing as a starter house here.
Yeah.
The government does do a good job. The local government has really made a push to create affordable housing, so they're below market rate houses. But with any resort town, you're going to have these issues. Yeah. We just got on the ball a little late, and so other communities have done a little bit better job of forecasting this problem and kind of prepared for it a little more.
Okay.
But as you were saying, 2.5% of the land is available to develop, and so it's tough because there's a ton of land, but there's not a ton of land at the same time.
Makes sense.
But yeah, there's definitely that struggle of, let's do the housing, but it's not in my backyard, please.
Yep.
And any type of development that goes on, people fight it. Mm-hmm. And eventually it's going to get to a point where if we don't completely try to, solve the issue with a large attack, then it's going to become more and more of a problem. So,
understood. Got it. Well, you guys are doing a great job here with your awesome line of clothing. I can't wait to see your buffalo bow ties before I leave. Where can people find you if anybody's interested in learning more about your business? What are your web addresses and your social media and such?
Yeah, so our website is westernrangeclothing.com, and then Western Range Clothing for both Instagram and Facebook. Those are our two main outlets, and so
awesome.
Yeah,
Spencer Hirst.
We'd love to hear from you guys. So.
It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much.
Take care, man. Thank you for listening to Small Business War Stories. If you enjoy the show, share it with a friend, or you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or on our blog at blog.proven.com. If you have an idea for us, we'd love to hear it. Please email us at podcast@proven.com. See you next time. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.